today I'm going to focus on just one really big issue, which is the main barrier I feel between online players and success in live cash, and that is patience. One of the biggest complaints that people picture of patient bear I think is appropriate. One of the big complaints that people have when they are used to playing online, playing several tables, playing lots of hands per hour, sometimes upwards of 1,000 hands per hour or even more, is that live is just so slow. It's very hard to play a long session because you're playing like 30, maybe 40 hands an hour. Even if you are able to play those long sessions, you're still getting in very few hands, and that really wears on some people's nerves. So that affects people in a lot of different ways. But the basic thing that the issue of having patience to play does to people is that it causes them to tilt. And let's talk about exactly what tilt means. This is something that I've mentioned in previous videos. I've definitely harped on a lot, and I hope that people have listened, because it's really important to recognize that tilting is not the sort of classical, super angry, shoving every hand type of issue that people think it is. It's actually a lot broader than that, and let's define tilt instead of, something crazy and angry as any play that's differing from your normal play and is based on your recent results. If you have a way that you normally play a certain hand, but you play it differently because someone in the game is a really soft spot or something like that, that's obviously not a tilted play. But if you make a play that differs from how you normally would, or what you think is the smart, reasonable play, and that's just based on the results of the current session or the past few sessions or even the past few hands or even just the previous hand, then that is something that is made out of tilt. You could expand that definition to include any play that's different from normal and based on something just emotional. So it could be something that happened in life and didn't actually happen at the tables. But for the purposes of this video, let's talk about plays that are different based on your recent results, because I'm going to address those issues, the forms of tilt that come up that are results oriented, and how to combat them and identify them. So the first and probably least common form of tilted play that people confront, which I'll talk about before something that's a little more standard, and then again before something that's a little more obscure, is winner's tilt. And this is a term that if you watch videos by mental game coaches, there are several of them about, or if you read articles about mentality in poker, you've probably heard this term before or something similar to it. The bottom line is that winning in a session, or winning recently, or winning a tournament or something like that, can cause you to make plays that are different from how you normally would play and become suboptimal. That is just purely based on the results of the facts that you've been winning. Anytime you feel like you just won a bunch of money, so you're free rolling, so you're willing to gamble more, that's a basic example of winner's tilt. Anytime you just won the previous hand, and so you fold this hand without even thinking about whether or not it's a good spot to play, that again is another opposite form of winner's tilt, where what you're doing is playing slightly suboptimally, not even thinking about whether you have a chance to make a good play, just because you won the previous hand and won some money and you're still nervous or something like that. These are very common, ubiquitous, I would say, forms of tilt that happen almost every session. If I watch a regular play any random live cash game for 6 hours, and he has in that time won, 10 or 12 significant pots, I'd be willing to bet that around 90% of those pots, he didn't even think very carefully about the next hand, possibly even the next 3 or 4 or 5 hands.